1.2 Introduction. You are doing your graduation degree now and have taken psychology as a subject. Some of your friends or classmates must be studying different subjects. Introduction to Counseling Psychology. Some may be doing engineering, medical or any other course. Those whom you know have qualified engineering or medical entrance test would have been called for counseling. You must be wondering, is that counseling same as the counseling course you are studying now in your graduation? The term counseling has been overused in the years by associating it with various fields such as advising students for selection of stream or courses, providing counseling in finance-related matters, for interior designing of house or office space, for buying of products like insurance policies and so on. Thus counseling to some degree is provided by certain professional groups as part of their profession, such as doctors, chartered accountants, lawyers, religious gurus and leaders. Further, counseling is also provided by other helping professional groups, such as psychiatrists, social workers, psychiatric nurses, marriage and family therapists, and pastoral counselors. They make use of various counseling skills and theories in their professional practice. Thus counseling is both a generic and specialized part of the helping field. Counseling is a profession that has come of age and is still growing. There are various professional organizations, for example, the American Counselling Association, ACA, British Association of Counselling, BAPCH, who provide guidelines for ethical practices in this field. 1.3 Defining counseling. Counselors are people who listen to others and facilitate in resolving their difficulties. A few definitions that illustrate the meaning and process of counseling as a profession are presented here. An effort to help the client engage in those types of behavior which will lead to a resolution of the client's problems. Counseling denotes a professional relationship between a trained counselor and a client. Relationship is usually person to person, and is designed to help clients to understand and clarify their views of their life space, and to learn to reach their self-determined goals through meaningful, well-informed choices and through resolution of problem. An interaction in which the counselor offers another person the time, attention, and respect necessary to explore, discover and clarify ways of living more resourcefully, and to his or her greater well-being. Counseling is a face-to-face situation in which, by reason of training, skill or confidence vested in him by the other, one person helps the second person to face, perceive, clarify, solve, and resolve adjustment problems. Counseling is a warm, permissive, safe, understanding, but limited social relationship within which therapist and patient discuss the effective behavior of the latter, including the ways of dealing with his emotionally toned needs and the situations that give rise to them. These definitions lay the basic structure for our deeper and comprehensive understanding of counseling. Thus, counseling can be described basically as a helping relationship between the counselor and the client, which is marked by a professional standard and a therapeutic climate in which both counselor and client mutually decide and work towards goals that leads to solution of problems and client growth and adjustment. In this context, let us understand how counseling is similar to and differs from guidance and psychotherapy that will further our understanding of counseling. 1.3.1 Guidance, Psychotherapy and Counseling Guidance. Guidance is usually used interchangeably with counseling. However, they are different. Guidance can be taken as a broader umbrella which includes a constellation of services that help in personal social development, career development, growth and adjustment. Guidance is a relationship between the unequal, which implies that a counselor provides information related to the client's dilemma, for instance about choosing a career. It is based on the client's aptitude, interest and personality assessment scores. It may be a direct, one-on-one session where necessary probes by the counselor are answered by the client. Guidance also describes an overall school/college program where assistance is provided to students, teachers, parents and administrators. While counseling is a process in which an individual who is experiencing a challenging situation requires assistance, usually through private discussion. Guidance centers on aiding people choose what they value most. Counseling focuses on helping them make changes. Guidance is mostly information giving, counseling is mostly change-oriented and remedial in nature. Psychotherapy. Psychotherapy usually involves a complete change in the personality characteristics followed by a reconstructive process. Thus it emphasizes on the past to understand the aspects to be changed. In contrast, counseling is directed toward aiding our emotional growth and psychological wellness, and thus the process of counseling focuses on the present. Emotional and severe personality problems come under the domain of a psychotherapist where the objective is to treat the patient. Psychotherapy in general includes 20 to 40 sessions over the period of 6 months to 2 years, whereas counseling sessions are less in number, i.e., 6 to 12 sessions over a period of less than 6 months. Psychotherapists practice independently or in hospital settings while counselors are more associated with educational settings. However, there may be overlap in the practice aspect. For example, both can provide marriage counseling and family therapy, counseling for substance use, child abuse, etc. So it is the professionals who decide whether clients receive psychotherapy or counseling, though psychotherapists are mostly associated with clinical setup. Counseling. Counseling is a professional relationship. It addresses concerns at the individual level as well as family and group levels. It aims at achieving educational, career, personal related goals and promoting better mental health and well-being in individuals. Thus counseling is, a relationship between the client and a counselor that is based on professionalism. It is not a social interaction and must be maintained so for effectiveness of therapy. 2. The process of counseling strengthens the client and allows for personal growth, fulfillment in mental and physical health, adjustment and coping with challenging situations. 3. Counseling deals with individuals, groups, families, etc. and 4. It is a diverse and multicultural process, as it engages with clients from varied social and cultural backgrounds. 1.4 Historical perspective of counseling. Counseling must have existed in one form or another since the very beginning of human civilization. It must have been through helping, sharing, advising, guiding, providing care and comfort in trying times, and helping the other person to overcome problems and challenging situations. Counseling developed as a distinct profession in the 1940s in the form of advice, guidance and providing information after the 2 world wars to cater to the needs of the society. It can be seen as an extension to psychotherapy. It was interdisciplinary and evolved from understandings from diverse disciplines like anthropology, education, ethics, law, sociology, philosophy, medical sciences. In the United States, counseling stemmed out of a humanitarian concern to benefit the lives of those adversely affected by the Industrial Revolution of the mid to late 1800s. Counseling emerged as a part of the broader area of psychology, but is now a distinct field in itself. 3 leaders are credited for the development of counseling. Frank Parsons, who can be rightly called the founder of guidance, established Boston's Vocational Bureau in 1908. He put forth 3 factors that are essential for young people while choosing a vocation. 1. Knowledge of work. 2. Knowledge of self. 3. True reasoning of the above 2. Parsons' vocational guidance was based on rationality and a reason with moral values, of the client, to guide young people in making their career decisions. Jesse B. Davis. In 1898, Davis advocated for moral value of hard work and in 1907 introduced vocational and moral guidance as a curriculum into an English language composition course. A systematized guidance program in the public schools was set up by him. The main objective was to help students understand their personality and become responsible workers in future. Clifford Beers. Beers' work is seen as a forerunner of mental health counseling. He exposed the deplorable conditions of mental health hospital through his book, A Mind That Found Itself, in 1908, which became a bestseller. These examples of crucial moments in the emergence of counseling illustrate the trajectory of a distinct historical tradition, which has primarily arisen from a social action orientation rather than an individual pathology perspective. Counseling expanded rapidly in the later half of the 20th century, in terms of the formation of counseling professional bodies, their objectives, scope being drafted, and there was ease of public access to counseling. Theorists such as E. G. Williamson, Carl Rogers, Gilbert Wren, Donald Super, Leona Tyler, and Thomas J. Sweeney have contributed tremendously to shape the contours and broaden the horizon of counseling. The emergence of American Counseling Association, ACA, which was rooted in the National Vocational Guidance Association, NVGA, was a major leap in the growth of this profession. In India, counseling movement was originated in the form of vocational guidance. Initially, it was voluntary private agencies which were engaged in providing guidance. There was the establishment of Batliboy Vocational Guidance Bureau in 1941 in Bombay, and later on Vocational Guidance Bureau by the Parsi Panchayat, a voluntary organization in Bombay, and other such agencies. Next, Bureau of Psychology in Allahabad was set up by the government of Uttar Pradesh, which aimed at providing educational and vocational guidance to school students. The Central Bureau of Educational and Vocational Guidance in New Delhi was established in 1954 by the Government of India to provide financial assistance to set up or expand guidance bureaus at various states. Gradually, guidance and counseling service started to be offered by departments of psychology of various universities, the forerunners being St. Xavier's College in Bombay and MS University in Baroda. There is also a one-year diploma course in guidance and counseling by the National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCET. 1.5 Goals and Objectives of Counseling. The major goal of counseling focuses on two aspects: developing a rapport or relationship with the client which is professional in nature. Forming rapport is the first crucial objective without which counseling cannot progress further. Second, counseling is a process which aims at creating a therapeutic climate in which the counselor and the clients engage to resolve issues, concerns or problems. This therapeutic climate is created based on genuineness, unconditional positive regard and an inherent trust. The goals of counseling can also be described as of three types based on their nature and time range: immediate goals, which aims at addressing and resolving the immediate concerns and sufferings of the client. Long-term goals refer to the goals going beyond the immediate problems and anxieties of client. It focuses on how the client needs to be ultimately, that is, utilizing all the potentials, being independent and capable. This is preparing the client or developing such competencies in the client so that they can deal with any future problem. Thus the long-term goals aim at achieving self-actualization and making the client a fully functioning person, a concept given by Rogers. Another important goal is the process goals, which refers to achieving a conducive counseling environment or therapeutic climate that will facilitate obtaining the immediate and long-term goals. Certain important goals and objectives of counseling are as follows. Facilitating behavior change. Counselor aims at behavioral change in the client so that it leads to reduction of stress, bringing harmony and fulfillment in relationships. Resolution of problems. Counseling aims at solving the problems with which the clients came to counseling. It thus aims at changing maladaptive behavior, and learning effective strategies to solve and prevent problems. Enhancing coping skills. One pertinent aspect of counseling is to strengthen clients' coping mechanisms so that they can use effective strategies. Promoting decision-making. Techniques employed in counseling help people make choices and solve problems. Client learns to make effective decisions. Improving relationships. Interpersonal as well as intrapersonal enhancement must be worked upon. Facilitating the client's potential. Every individual has the strengths to overcome discomforting situations. Counseling needs to facilitate exploring the inner potentials of client. The process of counseling helps in recognizing clients' strengths and steers these toward effective problem solving and decision making. Achievement of positive mental health. Counseling not only aims at resolving problems and sufferings, but goes beyond it to highlight building up of resources and strengths in individuals. An important goal of counseling is promotion of positive feelings, mental health and well-being. Thus the goal of counseling is not limited only to resolving problems, but also to build resources. It has moved from problem-focused and remedial orientation to a strengths-based and preventive approach. The ultimate aim of counseling is make the client a self-actualized person, pulling out the best in her/him. As Rao has pointed out, it is not enough to maintain status quo. Counseling should go further to help the client transcend the status quo. One important thing to be noted here is that counseling is usually considered to provide ready-made direct solutions to the client's problems. However, it is not so. As you must have understood from the definitions of counseling, it is a helping relationship in which clients have equal responsibility to move towards the solution of their problems. It is not like you have fever and the doctor hands over you the medicine, you eat it and then you get well. Diverse factors are considered here: contextual factors, client characteristics, nature of the problem, etc., and both clients and counselors mutually decide upon the goals and strategies to overcome the problem. The very essence of counseling is based on the free will and rights of the individual client. Role of counselor is to be with the client and provide perspectives to the client and enable the client to make effective choices and decisions and solve problems. 1.6 Personal characteristics of effective counselors. Any profession requires certain typical characteristics to be present in an individual entering that career. Aspiring counselors also need to have certain personality characteristics to be effective in providing counseling. Hence one must look inwards and reflect on their strengths and areas that require to be worked upon. An effective counselor is required to do the following: become aware of oneself, and one's fears, anxieties, concerns, motives for helping and strengths. Be open to receive supervision from senior professionals. Avoid the use of too many tests. Consult other professionals in the field. When faced with an ethical dilemma, be aware of ethical principles in counseling and practice these. Be aware of one's limitations and expertise in providing service in different areas of counseling and refer the client to appropriate professionals. Take care of one's psychological wellness. The characteristics and personal experiences of an individual can have an impact on providing of counseling service. In order to understand the early experiences of an effective counselor, you can refer to the inspiring account of Gerald Corey below, an eminent figure in the field of counseling and psychology who has described his feelings and experiences in the process of becoming a psychologist. When I was in college, I wanted to help others, and it was important for me to change the world. As a child and an adolescent, I did not feel that my presence made that much difference. In college years, I experienced some success and found some positive routes to being recognized. Later, when I began my teaching career, I began to see that I could make a difference. I also got personal satisfaction from knowing that I was a useful person. In fact, I think that I depended, and still do, to a large extent on my professional accomplishments for my sense of identity. A description about how he felt when he entered into counseling practice is as follows: in the beginning of my career, I did not feel confident, and I often wondered whether I was suitable for the field. I felt incompetent and inexperienced next to my co-leader. When I began as practicing counselor, I remember progress being very slow, and it seemed that I needed an inordinate amount of immediate and positive feedback. When after several weeks a client was still talking about feeling anxious or depressed, I immediately felt my own incompetence as a helper. I did not know what to say or do in front of my so effective supervisor. I had no idea of what my clients were getting from our sessions. What I did not know at the time was that clients need to struggle as a part of finding their own answers. My expectation was that they should feel better quickly. I also did not appreciate that clients often began to feel worse as they give up their defenses and open themselves to pain. I was more inclined to accept clients who were bright, verbal, attractive, and willing to talk about their problems than clients who seemed depressed or unmotivated to change. I learned in my supervision that working with depressed patients was difficult for me because of my own reluctance to deal with my own fears of depression. This experience taught me the important lesson that I could not take clients in any direction that I had not been willing to explore in my own life. This reflective account indicates that one needs to integrate personal experiences with assessment of one's inner potentialities and scientific knowledge and skills to emerge as an effective counselor. There are personal qualities and characteristics that deem significant while thinking about counselors who are therapeutic. No therapist will fully exemplify all the traits described here. However, the willingness to struggle to become a more therapeutic person is one crucial quality. Effective counselors exhibit the following characteristics: a sense of distinctiveness. Effective counselors know who they are, what they want out of life, and what they are capable of becoming. High on self-regard, they are capable of giving and receiving help and love out of their own. They have a high sense of self-worth and regard. They feel completely adequate. So they are able to give and receive help and make others feel comfortable and powerful in their presence. Amenable to change. They exhibit an openness and courage to adapt to various situations. They are able to make decisions and give a direction to their life in the way they want, with the flexibility of revising their decisions. Are life-oriented, they live life fully rather than mere existing. Genuine, sincere, and honest. They are open and honest and do not put up any defenses or facades. A sense of humor. They have a realistic perspective and enjoy life with a sense of humor. They are able to laugh at themselves. Admit their mistakes. They accept their mistakes, and improve on them instead of brooding over them. Live in the today. They live in the present moment rather than bothering about the past or future. Acknowledge the influence of culture. They are aware about cultural diversities and differences arising out of cultural practices, social class, caste, race, religion, sexual orientation, and gender, and how they influence our behavior and life. An earnest interest in the welfare of others. They exhibit care, concern for the welfare of others and respect and value them. Efficient interpersonal skills. They are able to form effective interpersonal relationships and work collaboratively to achieve common goals. Dedicated to their work and derive meaning from it, they are committed to their work and make it meaningful for their life. Passionate. They do everything with passion. Able to strike a balance, they are able to balance their personal and professional life by not letting the client's worries and issues affect them emotionally. They are able to establish boundaries in their personal lives so that they can contribute effectively in their professional life. This description of the attributes of effective therapists might appear monumental and unrealistic. These personal characteristics should not be viewed from an all-or-nothing perspective, rather, consider them along a continuum. A given trait may truly be characteristic of you, at one extreme, or it may be very uncharacteristic of you, at the other extreme. This list will help you to examine it and develop your own concept of what personality traits you think are essential to strive for, to promote your own personal growth. In a study by Dougal and Swaram, 16 psychotherapists practicing in India, 10 women and 6 men, with 25 years of experience were interviewed for what motivated them to join psychotherapy. Responses like an interest in the human mind, in healing and reading and in working with children, led therapists to enter the helping profession. Personal qualities such as being a people's person and being a patient listener also facilitated the choice. Further, experiencing life-changing events and personal distress, receiving professional help or adopting certain roles within the family were mentioned as facilitating factors. Interestingly, personal needs, the role of destiny and chance were also identified as contributing elements. As Carl Rogers, who has advocated a humanitarian approach to counseling, pointed out, a good counselor needs to be sensitive to human relationships, possess an objective attitude, have positive regard for the client without any judgment, i.e., unconditional positive regard, believing in and providing freedom to the client to work out own solutions, understand himself/herself and have understanding about human behavior and personality. Thus, acceptance, empathy, sensitivity to feelings, trustworthiness and genuineness are some major qualities the counselor needs to have to be effective in counseling. Effective counselors take steps to maintain their mental health and well-being so as to avoid negative impacts such as compassion fatigue and burnout. They undertake the following measures to overcome fatigue and burnout: being in contact with healthy people, identifying the stressors and relaxers for self, engaging in personal therapy, be clear about counseling roles and expectations, balancing commitment to personal and professional life, setting aside some me time, believing in optimism and hope, cultivating an attitude of detached concern. Counseling competence. Counseling competence is the determination, facilitation, evaluation, and sustaining of positive therapeutic outcomes. It consists of a set of competencies, and each competency consists of subsets of micro-skills, both behavioral and cognitive. The counselor needs to coordinate and integrate these competencies and micro-skills in the process of determining, facilitating, evaluating, and sustaining therapeutic outcomes. One of the main tasks of counseling psychologists or therapists is focusing on the client's strengths, assets, and potentialities that is in line with the main goal of counseling. To achieve this, there is a requirement of continuous self-reflection and self-awareness by the counselor which will facilitate effective therapeutic relationship and professional development. The relationship between the counselor and client, often referred to as a therapeutic alliance, is affected by so many factors. For instance, it gets facilitated if the client and counselor are from the same culture or similar to each other in beliefs. An analysis on 61 Asian American clients at a university counseling center showed that both a strong match on belief about problem etiology and a high client expectation for counseling success seem to be associated with a strong client-counselor working alliance. Studies have also shown that our attitudes toward seeking psychological help are associated with stigma. In a study, college students' experiences with classism were found to be positively related to public and social network stigma. This means that the more classism college students perceived, the more likely they were to report concern about stigmatization from their social network and from the public in regard to seeking psychological help. These experiences might lead to increased self-stigma, which has a negative relationship with attitudes toward seeking counseling. A remarkable study by Fogel is a first step to understanding help-seeking stigma in 10 countries: Australia, Brazil, Canada, Hong Kong, Portugal, Romania, Taiwan, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and United States. The findings suggest that even in international contexts, higher levels of public stigma are associated with higher levels of self-stigma, and that higher levels of self-stigma are associated with more negative attitudes toward seeking help in most of these countries. Thus, counselors need to reach out to the clients in culturally appropriate ways to communicate better about seeking psychological help. As a counselor, one needs to examine one's motives for entering the counseling profession. Some beneficial motives for becoming a counselor can be listed as humanism, a commitment to create a better world, being curious and sensitive towards human behavior in all its variations, and desire to help people suffering from mental health issues or maladjustment. People who have worked through their emotional pain, are honest, constantly evaluate the counseling process, upgrade their knowledge, engage in peer supervision, and conform to professional integrity, are well-meaning intentions for choosing to be a counselor. On the contrary, some harmful motives for becoming a counselor are having unresolved personal trauma/distress, seeking love and intimacy through counseling relationship, having repressed feelings, having a desire for power and controlling others. Hence, a self-assessment of one's own inner true characteristic is crucial for all those who are inclined to opt for counseling. We all are aware of our thoughts and behavior patterns that guide us in our day-to-day functioning. Therefore, we are the best judge for evaluating ourselves before entering this professional service. It may help if we take a feedback from our significant relationships that are around us, such as our mother, father, our siblings, and whosoever you identify with. We may think that they will hold a biased opinion about us, but in reality, their account will be an accurate assessment of ourself. 1.7 Types of counseling. Broadly, guidance and counseling can be grouped into 3 types, such as educational, vocational/career, and personal social counseling. Educational counseling caters to the needs arising from the context of education. Present education system is challenged by diversities in classroom, technological advancement, competitive environment, overemphasis on academic achievement, etc., which leaves the child anxious, confused and stressed. Educational counseling becomes crucial to help the child acquire effective learning strategies, understand the importance of learning to learn, not learning to compete, and function adequately in a learning environment. It also addresses the issues and concerns of elementary school students, high school students, and college-level students. Vocational guidance and career counseling refers to counseling related to the choice of a career, and deciding on pursuing a particular career. Career selection depends on understanding of oneself, personality characteristics, skills, interests, aptitudes, the contextual factors, the career itself, nature of job, scope, prospects, etc., and matching between the two. Career counseling is also required related to the work stress, adjustment at workplace, communication issues, interpersonal conflicts, and achieving job satisfaction and happiness at work. Personal social counseling concerns issues related to the growth and development of oneself and functioning in a social context. It helps the person to develop awareness about herself/himself, achieve the potentials within and to develop fully in all aspects. Along with understanding oneself, the individual also needs to be aware about other persons around so that it can result in better interpersonal relationships and communication. Personal social counseling helps to develop emotional competence, resilience, good interpersonal relationship, etc., which contributes to better mental health and well-being. Under each of these broader types of counseling, we can have further areas of concern. Thus, based on the approach that is followed in counseling, we can have 4 types of counseling situations: developmental, facilitative, crisis, and preventive counseling. Developmental: this type of counseling engages with the individual throughout the entire lifespan. It helps to deal with the various developmental stage-related issues and concerns so that the individual is able to cope with these challenges, function effectively and progress optimally. Developmental counseling deals with an individual's strength and aims at fully utilizing one's capacities. It encourages personalized learning and equips the clients to be responsible for the decisions and choices made by them. Facilitative: this kind of counseling involves facilitating or helping a client clarify the concerns and problems, promotes self-understanding and acceptance, and suggests ways to overcome undesirable behavior or situations. Dilemmas related to jobs, marital adjustment, poor academic performance may benefit from facilitative counseling process. This is remedial or adjustive type of counseling that aids us in progressing from a deficit stage to a functional one, thereby facilitating growth. Crisis counseling, as the name indicates, requires an immediate support from a counselor. Profound disruption of an individual's life cycles brings frustration, which then requires professional understanding and appropriate help. Inability to cope with life's stresses, interpersonal dissonance, perceived inadequacies in self may lead to suicidal attempts and therefore necessitate hospitalization as a therapeutic intervention. Irrespective of the nature of crisis, the counselor must accept the situation and remain calm, poised and be self-assured. This helps reduce the level of anxiety in the client. Preventive approach to counseling focuses on self-awareness related to career preparations and decisions, drug awareness, retirement options, enhancing communicative skills, and so on. Thus it emphasizes on prevention of the problem before it appears by equipping the person to deal with the situation. The preventive counselor interacts with the clients in groups or individually and presents a roadmap. In preventive counseling, the counselor gives the information to the client and the process of counseling is complemented by the involvement of the client in the progress. 1.8 Training and professional aspects of counseling. Counseling has arisen as a separate professional entity which mandates establishing its professional credentials. There are 4 types of professional credentials imperative for counseling. 1. Inspection. It refers to examining of the activities of practitioners of a profession by an government agency to establish that they are practicing in a manner consistent with the public safety, health and welfare. 2. Registration. Recognition as a profession requires its practitioners to register themselves with some professional organization. The organization has specific standards outlined for the practitioners to comply with and qualify these so as to gain legal recognition as registered professional counselors. 3. Certification. It refers to a professional statutory or non-statutory process wherein an agency or a government body grants recognition to an individual as a professional in the field who meets the prescribed qualifications. For licensure, it is a process by which a government agency grants permission to the individual who meets the requisite qualifications to perform the specific functions as a professional. Counselor preparation and training involves mainly two things: academic preparation and practical skills. Counselor needs to have proper academic qualification with a grounding in the basics of counseling, various theoretical perspectives, understanding of human development, personality, maladaptive behaviors, psychological assessment, etc., with a specialization in specific areas of counseling. Training needs to involve supervised practice in actual field to gain first-hand skills and experience. One crucial aspect here is awareness and adherence to the ethical standards in counseling practice. The counselor needs to keep the confidentiality of counseling and ensure that counseling is characterized by benevolence, benefit and welfare of client, and non-maleficence. There is no harm to the client. You will learn about the ethics in counseling in detail in the next unit. The current COVID-19 pandemic has given rise to newer dimensions in regard to ethical issues during counseling process. The requirement of social distancing has taken counseling client interaction and the counseling process from face-to-face to the online or virtual platform, which has raised concerns about potential ethical issues and conduct. 1.8.1 Licensure in India. A lack of common curriculum for counseling or psychotherapy training in India, along with the problem of lack of regulation of the profession, draws a grim picture. There is no central accrediting body or policy of licensure available at present to regulate counseling as a profession. Even ethical standards and practices are not regulated by any governing body. Since there are no available check upon private practitioners or their qualifications in India, professionalization of counseling has yet to be established. Although organizations such as the Rehabilitation Council of India, RCI, and the Counselor Association of India, CAI, do indicate a step in that direction. In India, RCI is the only statutory council which documents details of all qualified professionals who work and deliver training and educational programs for the disabled, disadvantaged and special education requirement communities. Another non-regulatory body, Association of Counsellors, CAI, in India, is a forum for counsellors working in different settings to share their knowledge and expertise with each other. Recently, Government of India has enacted the National Commission for Allied and Healthcare Professions Act on the 28th of March, 2021, which has specified standards of education and services provided by allied and healthcare professionals. 1.9 Counselling in India. Counselling has existed in India since long back in the form of Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna, considered as the first counsellor, has counselled Arjuna when the latter was in conflict over fighting with his own brethren in war. Sri Krishna provided counselling to him and facilitated self-realization in Arjuna, which helped him to take proper decisions and helped resolve his conflicts. In India, counsellors work in settings such as hospitals, schools, colleges, workplaces, private counselling centres, and may have their own private practice. Additionally, counsellors are trained in varied educational traditions such as social work, psychology, clinical psychology and psychiatry. This shared practice and blending of knowledge domains of counsellors and other helping professions, coupled with the diversity within the counselling profession, has, on the one hand, produced a rich, comprehensive and inclusive field, yet, on the other hand, it has contributed to a disjointed identity that lacks clear roles and functions. Irrespective of the training, affiliations and credentials, social workers, psychologists and counselors often share the same clientele, apply a similar theoretical framework and compete for the same jobs, in which they are hired to perform the same tasks and at times, perform the same responsibilities. To be able to better understand the experiences of counselors in India, we must examine the cultural context where they practice. Undoubtedly, there is a growing need for counseling services in India. While the need for counseling in rural parts of the country is not deniable, it must be recognized that counseling in India is a phenomenon more easily available in urban, metropolitan areas and is still to penetrate into the hinterlands. The past decade has certainly seen the birth of many counseling programs for various developmental stages across the lifespan, as well as counseling for specific issues and contexts. Many Indian universities currently offer training in psychology, with a focus on psychotherapy and counseling. Research suggests that the number of professionally qualified counselors is far less than would adequately meet the needs of the population. There is a great dearth of published research in the Indian context. Educational institutes in India teach counseling from material that is located in another culture that is either the mainstream American or British tradition. Currently, counseling in India is largely a female-dominated profession, with very few men seeking entry. This gender disparity may be partly accounted for by the fact that many colleges offering undergraduate education in psychology in cities such as Delhi are colleges only for women. This limits the number of students eligible to enter into postgraduate training in disciplines such as counseling and clinical psychology. The remuneration that this profession gets is low, often offered as an honorarium instead of a salary and not paid on time, adding to the woes of the counselor's role. Males, considered as breadwinners, get further discouraged. While effective training of counselors can help women counselors to deal with a range of issues, male clients often indicate a preference for male counselors and therapists. This preference can only be met if more men enter the profession. This gender disparity in counseling services is not unique to India, it is something that is seen in other countries as well. In the United States, 3 times the number of women earn doctoral degrees in psychology as compared to men. The dominance of women over men in psychotherapy is likely to have an impact on the issues being dealt with in therapy and also the process of therapy itself. In the interest of the profession, the perspectives of men need to come to the forefront. Psychiatry, a male-dominated profession, has been turning more towards medication for treatment of mental illness, and women were more drawn to psychotherapy in its various forms. 1.10 Let us sum up. As a profession, counseling is a relatively new one. It is a byproduct of the guidance movement that grew in opposition to the traditional psychotherapeutic intervention. The meaning of counseling is explained, and it is differentiated from guidance and psychotherapy. Development of the field of counseling and some main contributors and organizations in the field are described, both globally and in Indian context. Important goals of counseling are described. It is important for the counselors to be aware about their own self and maintain a healthy life so as to contribute effectively to counseling. Counselors need to learn from both their mistakes and their successes and must allow themselves to grow personally and therapeutically, to be able to concentrate fully and sensitively on clients' problems. Counselors also need to follow ethical guidelines to be legally protected from any adversity. Different types of counseling are explained, ranging from educational, career to personal social. Finally, the training and other aspects related to counseling as a profession are described with a focus on Indian context.